affected by the campfire that has devastated our beloved Paradise and Magalia communities.
Affected by the tragic campfire that tore through our beautiful Paradise and Magalia communities, this story hits close to home for many. Everyone remembers Gary Burghoff as that sweet, soft-spoken heart of MASH, the shy clerk clutching his teddy bear, flashing that gentle smile that made millions melt. But behind that innocent grin, a storm was brewing, and it wasn't pretty. Some of his own castmates didn't just dislike him, they couldn't stand him. They swore up and down they'd never share a set with him again. And get this, these weren't random industry folks or Hollywood outsiders. These were his own co-stars, the same people who once called him family, only to turn around and publicly humiliate him later. When you find out who these stars were, you won't believe how deep that resentment ran. The first to blow up? Wayne Rogers, the man who brought Trapper John to life and one of the biggest names during the early MASH years. He was known for keeping his cool no matter what, until Gary came along. Their clashes weren't your usual actor disagreements, they were full-blown meltdowns that stunned everyone on set. It all started on Stage 9 at 20th Century Fox. The cast would gather for early table reads, joking, laughing, building that family vibe fans would later see on screen. Wayne had this effortless swagger whenever he delivered his lines, while Gary sat tense, fidgety, clearly overthinking every moment. He wanted everything perfect, maybe too perfect. At first, Wayne actually tried to help him out, playing the big brother role. But Gary's nerves and sensitivity started wearing thin on Wayne, who needed calm to do his best work. Then came the real turning point, the moment that made everything blow up. Fox producers started noticing something big. Audiences loved Radar. The feedback was off the charts. Ratings meetings kept bringing up Gary's name, calling him the secret weapon of the show. And Wayne, who had signed on believing Trapper John was meant to be a co-lead, suddenly realized some of his spotlight and even entire swamp scenes were being rewritten around Radar instead. That's when things got messy. Soon, more and more scenes were quietly rewritten to give Gary's character deeper emotional weight, and that's when things really started to heat up. Crew members remembered hearing Wayne mutter under his breath, "Radar again," every time a new script came in. It wasn't because he hated the character. No, it was how Gary handled his rising fame that got under Wayne's skin. Gary started getting defensive, questioning every cut and change. He'd walk around set asking, "Why am I not in this scene? Why did they cut my line?" over and over. It drove everyone crazy. Wayne, who had little patience for insecurity, started to lose his cool fast. When Season 2 began filming at the Malibu Creek State Park set, the scorching heat and long, exhausting days only made everything worse. That's when Gary's unpredictable moods became impossible for Wayne to ignore. One afternoon, during a mess tent scene, Gary suddenly stormed off mid-take, insisting Radar wouldn't react this way. The crew froze. Wayne just stared in disbelief. That was the moment something in him shifted. The irritation he'd been holding back turned into real dislike. It wasn't just a clash anymore, it was personal. Things spiraled even more during later shoots. Gary kept cutting in, trying to tell Wayne how the emotional rhythm should go, insisting Radar should control the moment. Wayne's jaw got tighter every time Gary spoke, until finally, he snapped. In a shocking outburst, Wayne grabbed a metal folding chair and hurled it right toward Gary. The entire set went silent. A boom mic operator later said, "I'd never seen Wayne look like that. It scared all of us." And Wayne didn't even try to deny it years later. He came clean, saying, "I lost it. Working with Gary felt like standing next to a fuse you didn't realize was burning." After that explosion, their working relationship was finished. They only filmed together because they were contractually stuck, but the tension between them was toxic. Wayne completely cut Gary off. No small talk, no laughter, nothing. That bad blood became one of the key reasons Wayne refused to renew his contract. They never made peace. Not in interviews, not at cast reunions, not ever. Two men who spent hundreds of hours pretending to be best friends on screen never buried their bitterness off it, and that icy silence followed them for the rest of their lives. But Wayne Rogers wasn't the only one who clashed with Gary Burghoff. The next feud hit just as hard. McLean Stevenson, the beloved man behind Colonel Blake, couldn't stand being around Gary either. And unlike Wayne, McLean didn't even bother pretending. From the very first days together inside the Colonel Henry Blake office on Stage 9 at 20th Century Fox, McLean sensed something was off. He realized quickly that Gary was the one cast member he simply couldn't relax around. And once that discomfort settled in, everything between them unraveled fast. The tension showed up early, right during their very first table reads. McLean was naturally easygoing and funny. He liked cracking jokes, tweaking lines for laughs, keeping the room loose. Gary hated it. One morning, during a simple exchange between Henry Blake and Radar, McLean tossed in a tiny ad-lib, nothing major, but Gary froze up, shot him a glare, and later pulled a writer aside to complain that McLean was changing Radar's energy. When word got back to McLean, his response was blunt. "Oh boy, we're going to have a problem." From that moment, their personalities clashed like oil and water. McLean worked freely, spontaneous, playful, always ready to improvise. Gary, on the other hand, was rigid, sensitive, and deeply protective of his character. During filming out at Malibu, when the heat pushed over 100 degrees, Gary would shut down if he felt overwhelmed, walking off to be alone. McLean saw that as arrogance. Gary saw McLean's teasing as mockery. The misunderstanding just kept festering like mold in a sealed tent. Then came the breaking point. They were filming a touching scene inside the mess tent, Colonel Blake comforting Radar after a rough day. McLean played it beautifully, even tossing in a soft, heartfelt joke at the end to lift the mood. The crew smiled. They loved it. But Gary didn't. When the director called cut, Gary pulled him aside behind the canvas walls and snapped, "You're making Radar the fool." That one line hit McLean like a slap. He was stunned, then furious. From that moment on, he kept his distance, deciding he'd stay polite but cold. Privately, he later admitted to the script supervisor, "I just can't work with him. He takes everything like an attack." And from there, their friendship, on or off screen, was dead for good.
He thinks I'm attacking him. I'm not, but he makes me the villain without even trying. That one line from McLean said it all. It showed exactly how trapped he felt in a misunderstanding he couldn't escape. By the time season 3 rolled around, the tension between him and Gary was ice cold. They barely spoke unless the cameras were rolling, and even then, the warmth audiences saw was pure acting. When McLean finally announced he was leaving MASH, the public ate up the story that he was chasing bigger Hollywood dreams, but behind closed doors, insiders whispered another truth. Part of McLean just needed to get away from the emotional tug-of-war with Gary. He was done walking on eggshells. And the saddest part? They never fixed things. No reunion hugs, no friendly phone calls, nothing. When McLean passed in 1996, his friendship with Gary stayed exactly where it ended. Unresolved, tense, and buried under years of silence and frustration. But Gary's troubles didn't stop there. Even Alan Alda, the calm, collected leader of MASH, eventually hit his breaking point. The man who kept peace on set for years finally snapped. It happened one afternoon on Stage 9 at 20th Century Fox, which should have been a simple rehearsal turned into one of the most uncomfortable moments the crew had ever witnessed. Alan stared at Gary with this look of disbelief, like he couldn't recognize the guy standing in front of him anymore. And right then, everyone in the room knew something between the two biggest stars of MASH had cracked for good. The spark that started it all came during a rewrite session for a Hawkeye and Radar storyline. Alan was co-writing, working through lines when Gary frowned mid-read, shoved the script aside, and said flat out, "Radar deserves better than this." The writers froze. Then Gary doubled down with the sentence that made jaws drop.
"You only write Hawkeye as the hero." That wasn't just feedback, that was an accusation. In front of producers, assistants, and writers, Gary had basically called out the man holding the entire show together. The air went thick. Alan said nothing, but everyone felt the shift. Something between them had broken for good. Weeks later, that silent tension finally blew up for real on the swamp tent at Malibu Creek. The director was blocking a simple emotional beat, Hawkeye calming Radar, but nothing about that day stayed simple for long. After some rough news hit the set, Gary flat out refused to take direction, insisting that Radar should respond with more authority. Alan, ever the calm leader, tried to step in gently, hoping to keep the day from completely falling apart. But Gary wasn't having it. He snapped again, saying, "You don't decide how Radar feels." That one line flipped a switch. Alan's eyes went cold, not angry, just done. He didn't raise his voice, didn't curse, didn't even move toward him. All he said, in a tone so icy it froze the whole stage, was, "We're trying to work, Gary." Everyone nearby went dead silent. From that point on, something between them broke for good. Their scenes still looked flawless on camera, but behind the lens, an invisible wall divided them. Gary started taking every little note like a personal insult. Alan, tired of walking on eggshells, stopped trying to connect at all. Whole days went by where the two men stood inches apart for close-up shots, but didn't exchange a single word once the director yelled cut. The energy on set had shifted, and everyone could feel it. By season 7, that quiet feud even started creeping onto the screen. During one simple tense scene, Gary wouldn't meet Alan's eyes, not once, through the first take. The director of photography called for a reset. Same thing in take 2. Alan didn't say a word, he just quietly adjusted his spot and tried again. But the silence said it all. Gary no longer wanted to share emotional space with the man fans believed was his closest friend. What made this fallout so heartbreaking was how quiet it was. There were no big public fights, no screaming matches, no slammed doors, just cold distance and deep disappointment. Crew members later said that silence was worse than any argument. At press events and reunion specials, they smiled for the cameras, played friendly for the fans, but the warmth everyone believed in was gone. Still, when the dust settled, Gary Burghoff carried something that no feud could ever erase. Despite clashing with 3 of MASH's biggest stars, Wayne Rogers, McLean Stevenson, and even Alan Alda, Gary walked away with a legacy that outshone the drama. Radar O'Reilly became the heart and soul of the entire series. The innocence, the nerves, the teddy bear, the quiet decency that held the 407 together. The behind-the-scenes tension, the arguments, the silent hostility, fans never saw any of it. What they did see was a character so genuine that he became unforgettable. Decades later, when people talk about the emotional core of MASH, they don't mention the feuds, the flying chair, or the cold stares across the soundstage. They remember Radar. And that's Gary's true legacy. Gary Burghoff's journey through MASH was chaotic, painful, and complicated, but it was also powerful, human, and lasting. His performance outlived every fight, every rumor, every ounce of tension behind the camera. So what do you think? Was Gary Burghoff just misunderstood, or were those conflicts bound to happen? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss another deep dive into the untold stories of classic Hollywood.